An all-wheel drive electric vehicle in winter practically invites images of spectacular alpine passes, especially from a channel from Switzerland. But that is everyday life for only a few drivers, right? That is why today I explain and show how the all-wheel drive ENYAQ and ELROQ behaves on real winter roads in Sweden. These conditions with compacted snow, snowdrifts and ice form the relevant everyday stress test for me. If you're specifically looking for action, I believe you're better off at a winter driving training. There you can safely explore the physical limits of a vehicle away from public roads, and it is genuinely a lot of fun. This video is about context and classification. An all-wheel drive model makes winter driving easier. The earlier all-wheel drive ENYAQ video from 2022 is still valid and worth watching here on the channel, and a separate video about the behavior of a rear-wheel drive ELROQ will follow soon. Winter had only just begun, right? And with that, hello friends of the electrified charging fun and welcome to Electrified Speicher. In winter, the coefficient of friction determines the possible longitudinal and lateral guidance of the car. Snow and ice do not change the vehicle's technology, they only change the friction between the tire and the road surface. A drivetrain cannot increase this friction, it can only use what is available. The system calibration determines how cleanly a vehicle deals with losses of grip. And this is exactly where the first physical advantage of an all-wheel drive system lies. This decisive advantage is in the distribution of drive torque across all four wheels. As a result, each wheel has to transmit significantly less force than on a two-wheel drive vehicle. This gives each wheel a larger margin before reaching the limit of available grip. And this margin is essential because it can be used for lateral guidance forces. And this keeps the vehicle steerable and controllable for a longer time. This advantage primarily applies when pulling away and at low speeds. At higher speeds, the ESC dominates, not all-wheel drive itself. The distribution of torque is orchestrated by an intelligent electronics in our car, not by mechanical parts. The all-wheel drive system distributes power as needed using two electric motors. Although there are no mechanical locking differentials, the ENYAQ and ELROQ has two electronic differential substitute systems. The EDS electronic differential lock on both front and rear axle brakes the spinning wheels at low speeds and transfers torque to the wheel with better traction. It reacts to drive slip. XDS Plus also intervenes at higher speeds, but only in a corner. As soon as an inner wheel in a corner becomes unloaded, it applies targeted brake pressure. This acts like a cross-axle differential lock and counteracts understeer in dynamic cornering. In other words, it helps during active driving with stability in a curve. For the real tricky pull-away situations, there's an additional driving profile available. For driving on unpaved or slippery surfaces, the all-wheel drive ENYAQ and ELROQ have the traction mode driving profile. This mode activates permanent all-wheel drive up to a speed of 20 km an hour. At the same time, torque output is reduced to protect the wheels, and on vehicles with the DCC, so the adaptive chassis control, damping is also set to soft to maximize traction. This is, however, not an off-road program, but maximum support for the decisive moment of getting the vehicle moving. In the first generation ENYAQ iV, the Sport mode was also an all-wheel drive mode. Based on my own measurements, the torque distribution was approximately 30 to 70 when pulling away and around 50 to 50 while driving. This changed with the technical facelift. In ENYAQ models from software version 4 onwards, and thus in all current ENYAQ and ELROQ models, Sport mode no longer is an all-wheel drive mode. Instead, the vehicle decides independently whether, when, and to what extent all-wheel drive is required. A bit of a pity if you ask me, because many appreciated having an AVD available beyond 20 km an hour. In this context, I am often asked a specific question. Do I actually need snow change at all? An all-wheel drive system makes it easier to pull away on snow and distributes drive torque across four wheels. This extends the usable grip range, but it does not replace snow chains. An all-wheel drive system can only use the grip that is available. It cannot create it. As soon as the coefficient of friction falls below a certain threshold, even an all-wheel drive vehicle loses forward motion. In situations such as compacted snow and ice, steep inclines with freezing rain, deep snow or asymmetric friction surfaces, all-wheel drive is not enough. The electronic locking strategies EDS and XDS Plus can limit wheel spin, but their effect is restricted to brake impulses. Snow chains generate additional grip and therefore a much higher traction buffer. Whether snow socks, textile chains, classic steel chains or studded tires are necessary depends on the surface. Snow socks increase grip on compacted snow but lose effectiveness quickly on ice. Textile chains are more robust and suitable for occasional use at low speeds. Steel chains provide the greatest increase in traction and lateral grip on compacted snow and ice and remains the most reliable tool. Studded tires deliver highest possible grip on bare ice but are restricted to certain regions and conditions. For everyday use with an all-wheel drive vehicle, these solutions are rarely required. The variable effects of these aids are more noticeable on a rear-wheel drive car. For this reason, future tests of these systems are better suited for a rear-wheel drive model. This brings us, by the way, to a decisive factor in the ENYAQ and ELROQ. These vehicles are heavy and the center of gravity is low. The additional weight increases axle load and, as mentioned, can help when pulling away on snow and ice. But this effect reverses quickly. As soon as lateral or braking forces occur, the higher mass lengthens the brake distances and places additional load on the ESC regulation system. Weight is therefore a limited advantage when it comes to pulling away, but not a safety feature when braking. The real basis of stability is the electronic control system. So the traction control system, TCS, the anti-lock braking system, ABS, and especially the ESC, the electronic stability control, determine stability in your car. They are decisive, not the drivetrain itself. They regulate slip at each wheel individually and intervene long before a human driver could react. The all-wheel drive system provides the foundation, but the control systems perform the actual work. Even with full power applied, these systems consistently limit slip. However, they are not always the best solution. The electronics are calibrated for road use, but there are situations in which traction control actively prevents forward motion, even though a certain amount of slip is necessary to dig through those low surfaces. For this reason, even the ENYAQ and ELROQ manual names 3 situations where it is useful to deactivate it: driving with snow chains, deep snow, or when trying to pull away a stuck vehicle. In these moments, you need wheels that intentionally spin to free the car. The problem? The all-wheel drive versions of ENYAQ and ELROQ no longer have a separate TCS button. The TCS off function, as described in older manuals, is no longer available in the current software. It still appears in some of the online manuals, but not in the vehicle itself. The control logic has been consolidated. Today, the function sits within the electronic stability control menu. When ESC is set to sport, traction control is automatically loosened. The system then allows significantly more wheel slip than in the normal mode. Functionally, this behavior corresponds to the former TCS off, yet is combined with the stability control that intervenes later, so it's not exactly the same. ESC is not fully disabled, however, even if the symbol might suggest this. Steering stability remains intact. For pulling away on loose surfaces, there's also the already mentioned traction mode. It keeps the all-wheel drive permanently active up to around 20 km an hour and reduces torque output to relieve the wheels. At the same time, the permissible slip level is increased without reaching the stability thresholds of ESC Sport. The mode is intended for deeper snow, loose surfaces, or mild inclines. However, there is a problem with that traction mode because not all ENYAQs have it, whilst all ELROQs have it. Very early ENYAQs built with software version 2, which got updated to software version 3, do not have traction mode, even though they are all-wheel drive ENYAQ. They were simply not capable of getting it, so starting with software version 3X works are the first ENYAQs with traction mode. So if you have an all-wheel drive ENYAQ and you do not have that traction mode, well, that is obviously the reason. Regeneration is a deceleration via the electric motor, and this acts like a braking process. It is therefore fully linked to traction control, anti-lock system and electronic stability control. An important actor in this system is the engine drag torque control. Maybe you have never heard of this. It prevents the wheels from locking when the driver abruptly lifts off the foot of the accelerator pedal or selects a high generation level. While this control increases engine speed in combustion engine cars to reduce the drag torque, it behaves differently in an electric vehicle like your ENYAQ or ELROQ. Here, it reduces the regenerative braking torque, so motor braking is pulled back. This shows the integration into the control systems. The vehicle actively reduces regeneration as soon as grip becomes critical. In plain terms, regeneration is not a safety feature in winter. It remains a braking action and has the same impact on wheel stability. This applies especially when driving downhill. Because when driving downhill, weight shifts forward. The rear axle loses load. Regeneration on the rear axle therefore has to be reduced to prevent instability. Any acceleration reduces lateral grip. That is why controlled speed downhill is more important than the type of deceleration. When in doubt, the more precise wheel individual regulated mechanical brake takes over, because it protects stability more effectively. All these control systems, however, are useless without the main factor. Because the vehicle does not detect ice or snow in advance, it works with the indirect slip detection. That means that the system only reacts once a wheel has already begun to lose grip and slip occurs. This is normal and technically sensible because the system reacts to physical reality. It also shows that cautious anticipatory speed is always necessary. The driver remains the primary sensor, and contact with the surface remains equally important. And therefore, tires determine available grip far more than any drivetrain. Compound, age, tread design, and especially the temperature window define how much friction is available. An all-wheel drive system can only work with what the tires provide. Without appropriate winter tires, any vehicle loses stability early. Anyone serious about safety invests in good tires first, then in the drivetrain. The footage in this video, by the way, has shown you typical winter situations as I experienced them in southern Scandinavia. Compacted snow, transitions between powder snow, cleared sections, snowdrift and ice. The all-wheel drive ENYAQ and ELROQ remains neutral and predictable. The control system intervenes early and the vehicle behaves consistently. This unspectacular yet reliable behavior is the true value of an all-wheel drive system. Rear-wheel drive models behave differently in winter. They are the more interesting vehicles when it comes to driving technique and physical limits. That is why an upcoming video with a rear-wheel drive ELROQ will cover topics such as load change reactions, driving technique on ice, and of course the indispensable snow change. So stay tuned for that. For the all-wheel drive models, the conclusion is simple. It is a road vehicle with a highly stable winter calibration. No more, but also no less. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider to subscribe. And I hope to see you then in my next video. And until then, stay full of energy.